feel like the Blues Brothers. 106 miles from Chicago.
Hello, everybody. It is the Emergency Nerds here to discuss the seismic announcement by President Joseph Robinette Biden that he will not be seeking re-election in November of this year. In his letter to the American people, he promised us that he would be giving an announcement, a formal announcement later in the week. I'm guessing he will go more in depth on the decision-making process, how he arrived at this decision, but also very heartening in this letter. He made it very clear. He made it crystal clear. He made it absolutely explicit that he supports as his replacement at the top of the ticket, Vice President Kamala Harris, which I certainly hope should put paid to all of you out there who discuss coronations and open primaries and open conventions, that you are on the wrong side of history if you do not support President Biden's decision to go with his vice president, whom he chose and we voted for on the assumption that she would take over in the event of the kind of emergency we are living through right now. Okay. I was on the way home from the dentist, take a nice leisurely walk. And Jen, I was going to pick up some avocado cucumber rolls and do a little writing, get ready for the show tonight. And lo and behold, this thing happened. I want to start with how everybody is feeling in terms of, and I mean laser focus simply on President Biden's decision and nothing else, just to start us off. Personally, I'm relieved, not because I wanted him to step down, but because we needed certainty and he was not allowed to give it to us. That's my personal feeling. So, Jen.
Yeah, I mean, look, I've always wanted to support whoever the Democratic ticket is, but in terms of Biden, the numbers have not been looking good from the internal polls we've heard. And today, the polling out from Michigan, I know everyone says don't look at polls, but all of them can't be wrong. And I was very scared that I knew there was a big effort from the party to try to get him to decide to do this. I think it is incredibly honorable. I am sad. I'm amazed. I think it takes a lot. We've seen a lot of men in particular over time, and even women. Look at Ruth Bader Ginsburg, dig in. And it's hard to let go. And I think Biden wasn't letting go. I don't think it was about ego. I think he was scared of the circus that may now ensue. We don't know what's going to happen. And so I think it was very honorable for him to decide that, I think he decided personally that he couldn't win. And okay. I don't think he was pushed out. And I think it's honorable for him to put aside his ego, because it wasn't just losing the presidency. I think he was afraid about down ticket. And I think that's a huge move.
Okay. Well, I have a couple of points of disagreement, Danielle. And I think, Danielle, you and I might be more on the same page here because, first of all, polls were a few months out still. Secondly, if President Biden made this decision for anything other than a health reason, and okay, let me take a step back first. This is the day we vent. We vent, and towards the end of this show, we regroup. Okay? There are a lot of feelings here. And I think anger is a reasonable one. Relief is a reasonable one. Fear is a reasonable one. Right now, again, I want to stay laser focused on just what Biden's decision means. Just simply in he's stepping down, we have certainty. But Danielle, I think that the polls were driven in large part by the media narrative that was created not out of whole cloth. Yeah, it was a bad debate performance, but pretty much other than that, out of whole cloth. And weak-kneed, largely white Democrats who took it upon themselves, including, by the way, very, very wealthy donors who took it upon themselves to decide that they have more say than we do, right? That's my take. So unless it is a serious health issue, Danielle, I am not happy about this.
Yeah, I will say first, I rarely disagree with Jen, but I will disagree on the point that
We're gonna pile on right now, though.
No, that I share with you, Mary, is that I do not think that this is a decision that Joe Biden made because of his own health, whether it's his physical health, his mental health. I think that this is a decision that was largely driven by the white, privileged, wealthy establishment of the Democratic Party that drove the narrative, that drove the media cycle, that drove the polls. And, Brian had tweeted something earlier where he was just like, Democrats just really love to eat their own. Right. And at a moment and a time when we could have and should have circled the wagons, which I've been saying on Democracy-ish for, Waj and I have been saying, and I've said it on other shows, circle the wagons around Joe Biden. They chose to throw him to the wolves and to throw the country to the wolves. Because why do I say that? I say it because white, cis, hetero, wealthy, privileged men have the least to lose in this fucking election, and yet are the most goddamn vocal about what it is their thoughts are about how the country should be moving forward, despite what it is that the voters and the base of Black women of this party have been saying. So now, I appreciate that Joe Biden did not leave it up to our imaginations to wonder what is going to be coming next, that he has offered his full-throated endorsement of Kamala Harris. And folks, according to what AOC had said a couple of days ago, there's no fucking consensus. So Joe Biden might have just pulled a really smart move publicly to say, I'm not going to wait for other Democrats to decide. I'm still the president of the United States, and this is the decision that I'm making. But let us not believe that the unleashing of misogynoir, the unleashing of how much this country hates women, how much they hate Black people, how much they hate Black women, is not going to come to a fever fucking pitch. So I'd like to see now how we decide to circle the wagons as a Democratic Party, and whether or not we're going to be lifting up Kamala Harris or we're going to continue to eat our own.
Yeah. And again, Brian, let's just shift back a little bit to the decision. And again, I'm angry about how a lot of things have unfolded. I'm mostly angry at some Democrats because we don't really expect too much from the corporate media at this point, as you repeatedly inform us. But all of that aside, I am relieved. We needed to know, because every day we didn't know, Joe Biden became a weaker candidate. And even though Donald Trump is the weakest candidate in the history of candidates, nobody is laying a glove on him, because I don't know, don't want to hurt his feelings to the point, like, we don't even need to know if he was actually hit with a bullet, like that kind of insanity. So how are you feeling specifically about not just his decision, but the way he announced that decision?
Well, I give him props for the announcing. I give him props for everything he's done as president. I like that he came out and said something about Kamala Harris, the VP. I am shocked that it has come to this, because it is a case of the Democrats overreacting and eating their own. I am appalled at the fact that the Republicans can circle their wagons around a convicted felon and tout him as the second coming of Jesus Christ, and that the power elites of the Democratic Party, spearheaded by Hollywood elitists and actor George Clooney, can write a letter because they want Donald Trump. Yeah, it's money. At the end of the day, you have to wonder if they want Donald Trump in office. I'll tell you this much. At the end of the day, should the Democrats lose, they can point to that letter that George Clooney wrote in the New York Times as being the spur that was the last thorn in his side. If they win, they'll all tell him he was Jesus Christ for the Democratic Party. But I come to this of mixed feelings like you, Mary. I'm glad that it's early, but as Danielle said, and probably the truest thing said was 4 months ago, they were trying to boot Kamala off the ticket, right? Now He's endorsed her, but are there people that are, this is setting up, and I'm just setting up whoever comes next to talk. This is setting this Democratic National Convention up to be something we haven't seen since 1980, 1968, or maybe back in the 40s. It could be a shit show. And
all
so
right,
I'm upset,
we're going to get there.
line.
We're going to get there. Let's start, let's stay at the beginning of this, Daniel, which is the announcement. And I want to reiterate that today's the day we get our feelings out and we be angry and we be confused and we be hurt and we whatever. But then we unite. And I think after the election is over, after we've won with President Kamala, I love the sound of that, by the way, President Kamala Harris. After we've won, this party needs to have a serious reckoning about what the base is of the Democratic Party and what kind of party we need to be. But Daniel, one of the things I always found just stunning is, a lot of the criticisms were, oh, you people who still support Biden, even though he had a bad 30 minutes, you're just like MAGA. You want everybody to fall into lockstep. And I'm like, okay, wait a minute, man. We just don't want to weaken our candidate, who is the only person who's beaten Donald Trump, at least in terms of the Electoral College, because as we know, Hillary Clinton handed him his ass, but we live in a racist country in which slaveholding states have more power than everybody else. And also, the candidate we're supporting supports democracy, and his successor also supports democracy. The other guys are fascists. So, Daniel, I always found that really insulting and just like a complete diversion from what was really going on. All of that having been said, how are you feeling about this? And do you think it's a good thing, or do you think, well, you know what, I'll just shut up and I'll let you talk.
Well, thank you. Personally, I am very upset. I think President Biden is a hero. Look back, we had on the doorstep of having another second term of Donald Trump. And this man, Joe Biden, who had every reason in the world not to run for election, stood up and saved our democracy for at least 4 years. And the way he's been treated by his own party in these past few weeks has just been really astonishing and upsetting. I think if there was an issue with President Biden's health, why was that not discovered earlier? If that is the issue. I mean, if he was planning to run for president, if his plan initially was just to run for one term, and then why was the Democratic Party not working for the past 3.5 years to get somebody to run in his place? Because they didn't work. So it's really upsetting. I think I'm very pleased that he made a quick endorsement of Kamala Harris. And if the Democratic Party does not stand 100% behind Kamala Harris, they deserve, I hate to say it, they will lose this election. I think Kamala Harris, she's a sitting vice president. She's qualified to do the job. President Biden made a very courageous act by endorsing her. I don't think he wanted to do this. I think by the way he did it, he wrote a letter. He didn't have a press conference. He did it on a Sunday afternoon. But I think he was pushed out by leaders of the Democratic Party.
Yeah.
And what we have enough time, I think, though, but we've got to do it perfectly from this point forward.
Yeah, I think, thanks, Daniel. And I think we may never know. Well, I have to be honest, like this is going to sound wrong because I do not wish President Biden ill at all, like literally and figuratively. But I think just in terms of clarity and people's understanding of all of this, I think it's best if he is stepping down for health reasons, not because he was forced out. Now, as to Daniel's point, if there really were health reasons, then why didn't we know it? Because that's how this shit works. Like, we never know when presidents are sick, really. We never know if they are sick, how sick they really are. I mean, we remember what happened with Donald and the whole COVID scam. I mean, he really did have COVID, but they kept trying to pretend that it was just fine. And it clearly wasn't. But Waj, even if it isn't a health reason, I hope that's what they go with, because otherwise it's going to create lots of ill will. And I've got to tell you right now, I think there are a lot of people who just can't handle the truth, and we need to We need to be clear and we need to move on. But before we get there, I just want to know how you're feeling about this decision, how it was made, and what led up to it.
Yeah, so I will say this, top line. Democracies falter when pro-democracy coalitions splinter and divide.
Yep.
And that's how fascism wins. I want everyone to remember that. Exhale, get your feelings out. There's 4 months left to the election. I'm never one to bend the knee. I'm always one to go out fighting, figuratively. And in my own personal life, with my daughter who just had her 8th birthday, 4 years ago, the doctor said it's over because she had stage 4 cancer. And look at her now, full of health. So you never know. And I say this because despondency and apathy and cynicism and rage sometimes take over. And I want people to realize that as long as you're still breathing, you still have a fight. And I'll be damned if I ever bend the knee to Donald Trump and MAGA in my life. So that's number one. Number two, the manner in which this happened, and we have to be honest about it, because I'm seeing it in my timeline with a lot of people of color, a lot of Black folks, is people aren't stupid. They realize that you attacked the incumbent president for 3.5 weeks, literally just destroyed him, tarred him, feathered him in public, went against the CBC, the Congressional Black Caucus, went against Bernie Sanders, who did a really robust defense of Biden on Late Show about 3 days ago, AOC. And furthermore, AOC, if you saw her Instagram live about 2 days ago, openly said, if you think it's going to be Kamala Harris, you haven't been in the same rooms that I have been in. And so if you're listening to Black Twitter right now, what Black Twitter is saying is they're going to stab Kamala in the back. That's what they're saying, folks. So this is what I think, what I would prefer, Mary, is right before you went to me, I tweeted, once I saw that Biden endorsed Kamala, like about 3 minutes ago, I tweeted, the way this is played out, what's done is done. I think the best way moving forward is, and to protect Kamala Harris, and furthermore, to protect the incumbency. And if you care about Alan Lichtman and the 13 keys, he's been right. Gives them another chance to Kamala, increases the chances, even though we have to be honest with people, it just got a lot tougher because historically, whenever this has happened, the party loses, but there's still time, is either at the convention, Mary, or before the convention. If President Biden says, I hereby resign, I welcome President Kamala Harris. And then you have President Kamala Harris plus her VP, no backdoor shenanigans, donors can't screw over anyone. It becomes a unified ticket. That to me is the best way forward, Mary. And I do think if President Biden says, I've listened to everyone, I'm 81 years old, I thought I could do it, I listened to my family, and it's best for me and the nation if I take a seat back. Even if he was healthy, I agree with you that going forward would be the best to perform unity and to salve a lot of the wounds. Because I think, Mary, if he said that and didn't, come out vindictive, it might heal some wounds. But it is, the last thing I'll say is about my feelings. I think it is remarkable. Look, I'm very critical of Biden on a lot of stuff, but I give credit on this show to Biden and Democrats. To have a person, a president of the United States of America, voluntarily say he will not run again after having so much success, after having 81 million people come out to vote for him, that is a testament to patriotism. He literally put the country before himself. I mean, imagine the pride, the ego that he had to swallow for all of us. So I have to say this, my hat's off to President Biden, who I've criticized for his complicity in what I believe is a genocide. And, I've been very critical of him, but I also praise him to do this for the country and then to stand behind a Black woman, Kamala Harris, and to stand beside a Black man, Obama. I hope voters remember this. And I really think they will.
Yeah, I and again, God, there's so much there that pulls at the frustration of having truly, including, I don't mean setting aside, because I don't want to be dismissive of the horrors of Gaza at all, but it doesn't feel helpful to say it would be worse under Donald, but that is also true.
It would.
So, all presidents have horrible stains on their record, including FDR, who interred no, that is the wrong word. Holy shit. Sorry. Put thousands of Japanese Americans in internment camps. So all of that having been said, Joe Biden is the most accomplished president in my lifetime. And for this, for it to have come to this, and for him to have been given no credit for that, right? Like, he has a really, really bad debate performance along with Donald and along with Dana Bash and Jake Tapper, by the way. And all of that just goes out the window. Like, people panic, and now we're here. And I don't know if you guys remember this, but Lawrence O'Donnell did a monologue. I don't know. I don't remember when, but it wasn't that long ago. I don't even remember if it was after the debate. But he was basically saying that if this election is a plane and Joe Biden is the pilot, and you're asking him to stop flying the plane, the time to do that was like 3 years ago. Like, not now. So, Jen, I think that Walsh raised the point about President Biden's not simply ending his campaign, but stepping down. I have heard, and again, I'm not plugged into anything, so what I'm hearing, it doesn't mean anything necessarily, but I've thought that would be the way to go too. But I've also heard that ain't happening. And one of the things that has so frustrated me about this whole thing is all of these people, again, almost exclusively white men of massive privilege, just being totally cool with throwing away the power of incumbency. Like, it's not that big a deal. There's literally nothing more powerful than the power of incumbency. So, I think that I think we'll be looking for that as well, to see if any moves are being made in that direction. But that having been said, let's take this to the next step. What are you seeing in terms of, let me back up a second. As I said earlier, one of the reasons that I think this is a good thing is just because it's a relief to know, right? The uncertainty is the worst possible thing. It's given Donald and his vile enablers and co-conspirators way too much ammunition. That's not helpful, because there is a massive double standard. He gets to say that he was actually friends with a fictional serial killer as if he were an actual human being. He gets to talk about electric boat batteries being too heavy and sharks eating him and getting electrocuted, whatever the fuck. And he gets to be a fascist. And that's all totally cool. Joe Biden can't even get a cold, right? So, along with the relief, though, is the new anxiety, because it seems so very simple. Of course, it should be Kamala Harris. If Obama had if Obama had been in the middle of his campaign for his second term, been unable to run, who would have replaced him?
Right.
And go all the way back to all of the other presidents. Of course, it would have been the vice president.
Yeah. So I am going to pivot, but I do want to say,
by the way, you guys, I'm just sort of free associating.
Yeah.
So if what I'm saying doesn't resonate with you, or you'd rather talk about something, that's totally fine. It's fine.
So, I have to say that, I gather information from a variety of sources, including people who can't go on the record and know stuff. And I also gather from my own observations. And look, when we were there in Atlanta, and I was all by myself in that spin room, and everyone had gone off to their little booths to record. I wasn't a real journalist, so I was neither one of the handful who could go in to see the actual debate, nor one of the ones who had these little perches. I was kind of sitting on the edge of the red carpet, and sort of, and sometimes in one of those little stadium seats, feeling my heart sink. and being worried about the same things that we've talked about. Was this just a cold, or was it something else? Was it something more? And I read a piece today in the New York Times, I think it was the Washington Post, online, written by the former wife of Ben Bradley, who was an editor at the Post, and I'm forgetting what her name is. And she was talking about what it was like to live with someone who was slowly getting dementia, and how he might be fine at one time, and then there would be these moments, and how she protected him. Joe Biden doesn't have dementia. That's not what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is, it's what I have felt is that it wasn't entirely a cold. It's a combination of all kinds of things. Aging, normal aging, being tired from the transatlantic trips. But as I saw him going forward, and in the ways that he was responding, I was concerned that it could be a trajectory. And I was in a panic, because if it got worse and too far, we would be stuck. And I do believe, Sally Quinn, thank you. I do believe that I would vote for Biden even if he were, in a semi-coma. Like, it's not about me, but I do know, I do know what others can see and how they see things. And I was very concerned both about so-called ordinary people in the world, not people like, not 50% of the country, which is us, including, but the other 49% or whatever percent that we also need. So my feelings were there, and I was panicked that he wouldn't endorse Harris. And that was the only way that I wanted this to move forward. And I will tell you that I will walk over glass. I will eat glass. We will support her, and there's no way they're going to do this crazy flippin' Aaron Sorkin or other kind of William Morris speed dating fucked up shit.
Mitt Romney, baby. That's the
or
ticket.
any of this fucking, the DNC cannot change the rules. Here's what I know. If you want democracy, you don't tell people to go out and vote and take their vote away. I voted for Biden Harris. Now that I always said this, consistently, if Biden steps away, Harris is the top of the ticket. That's how it fucking works, period. And that's how, and I think the delegates who pledge themselves to Biden Harris are going to have to vote their conscience, which is Harris, because otherwise you're stripping all of us our rights away. And, women are not going to go out and vote. Black women are, whatever. I don't want to say that people want Trump to go in, but we talk about the enthusiasm gap and the fuck you gap and the you want white supremacy more than you want democracy fucking gap. I'm sorry, this is my rage here, but I will tell you, I always used to joke around, when you change law schools, what are you going to do next? I'm like, okay, my next job will be working in the first Harris administration. Like, I always thought she was going to be president one day. I didn't know how soon. She will be fucking president. And that is fucking that. And she can win. Anyway, I know I'm kind of all over the place here, but I wanted to hold all of this stuff. The reason why I'm mostly relieved is I think this is I don't know whether it's Parkinson's, but I think that he has a medical condition. I think it was emergent. I don't think it was there when he did the State of the Union. And I think he could get through an election, but I think it wasn't going to happen. And he made the choice with a lot of pressure, but also with his conscience to look at what this situation was. And that's how I feel.
Well, again, I think there's a very good chance we're not going to know the actual reason, but that's okay. The decision has been made. He made the decision. He's endorsed as vice president. That's all fine. And by the way, guys, if you white people, hello, white people, if you want to know what allyship looks like, it means backing Vice President Harris. It's that simple. Okay. It's not hard.
100%. And being for women. She is a woman.
There's no guarantee of that, though.
She's a billion times more qualified than the entire Republican ticket put together. So let's not even, I'm not going to pretend it's going to be a smooth ride. But Danielle, it seems pretty self-evident that it should be.
A lot of things should be.
Wait, can we bottle that laugh? Can you do that again?
But seriously, I just also want to point the fact that we're hearing these insane I mean, okay, let's first of all, speaking of being completely incoherent, that would be me. When Democrats are winning and Republicans have lost, when Democrats are struggling and Republicans are struggling, it's only Democrats who are told to pick a Republican to be their candidate for anything. Oh, you need a Republican as your vice president. Oh, you need a Republican at the top of your ticket. Like that makes sense. So Danielle, yes, I'm not going to pretend it's going to be easy, but the contortions they're twisting themselves into to kind of pretend that for some reason it would be illegitimate for Kamala Harris. It's just quite stunning. And by the way, if it's not her, who do you think gets the Biden Harris money? Good luck with that, guys.
So a couple of things here. Thank you for your clarion call to white people. Because I think that white people in this country have a lot of fucking soul searching to do, particularly white women who, thanks to, we didn't have President Hillary Clinton, right? Because white women
53% of white women
couldn't find it in themselves to vote for themselves, right? Over white supremacy and patriarchy, right? So here's what we have to understand about this very real moment, which is about it is more than allyship. It is more than a party. It is doing what the people of France did. It is doing what the brave women of Iran did. It is putting and swallowing whatever fucking bullshit that people walk around in this country with their mind in the clouds or their head in the sand and pretending that politics and racism doesn't exist and doesn't affect their day-to-day lives. This is it. This is the moment. And I just, for folks who are literary, right? Yesterday's date, July 20th, 2024, is the opening of Octavia Butler's book, Parable of the Sower. Parable of the Sower, she wrote in 1993. And what is that book for those that have not read it? And I tell you, Google it and buy the 2-part, Parable of the Sower and Parable of the Talents. Because what is that book? Octavia Butler predicted in this fiction writing the moment that we are living in right now. The president in her book, his slogan was "Make America Great Again." It was about the rise of white Christian nationalism and what would happen to the United States and how it broke apart into different factions, how slavery was reintroduced, right? How there were no social services anymore. And so poverty and drug use were rampant. How people lived behind, barricaded walls in small communities that grew their own food. And then there was a complete and total breakdown of society altogether and the emergence of a new religion, a new leader, and what have you. That was yesterday's date. And then today happens. So for people who believe in signs, I am telling you that this is the last moment that we had. In 2016 on Canadian television on election night, I said that the election of Donald Trump was white supremacy's last stand. I did not know how long that stand would be, but I said it. And here we find ourselves some 8 years later, where everything around us, the institutions, our faith in those institutions have disintegrated. And where we find ourselves is now the one person who has beaten Donald Trump has been beaten out of his own party and has endorsed his Black vice president of the United States inside of a country that hates women just as much as they hate Black people. So if we don't unify around this, and stop with the conjecture, stop with the mainstream corporate media bullshit, we will find ourselves inside of Octavia Butler's America that she projected into the future by like some 30 years.
Well, look, I appreciate the shout out, any shout out to Octavia Butler, but particularly to Parable of the Sower in this particular instance. But guys, it's not, yes, Parable of the Sower, but also 1984. Brave New World, Clockwork Orange, and Soylent Green. Okay, and
we aren't eating people yet. But
that Twilight Zone episode where the Martians come down and they have a cookbook called "To Serve Man." It's going to be all of them. And the reason
spoiler alert, that's like the flipping ending of that episode. Damn it.
Yeah. Okay. Come on.
whatever. No, that's just the name of the cookbook. It's
Yeah.
fine.
At the end, they say to serve man. It's a cookbook. That's like the last line.
Whatever. Too bad. This is much more important. We have breaking news, but we have breaking news from two people, so I'm not entirely sure who to go. Like,
Well, here, let me just add in the stuff that we've been talking about.
okay,
Trump
Brian, can you
issued a
just break the news, and then Waj is going to break his
Yep.
news, and then we're going to go back
Yep.
to your news.
Trump just reacted saying Biden will go down as the single worst president by far in the history of our country. At the same time, I just got off the phone before we started with Andy Bashir's people. Bashir is talking with Kamala Harris about he's one of the three possibles for VP and a spokesman for Andy Bashir. He's a governor of Kentucky in a red state, Democrat. His advisor said she will eat Donald Trump's lunch. She has boundless energy and will unite the party. And at the end of the day, I can also report the last bit that I can report is, Jen, I love you, but Joe Biden doesn't have an emerging illness. This has nothing to do with illness. He is as healthy as he was. I saw him, not too long ago. That's not what this is about.
Okay, but we
There you
don't.
go.
I mean,
There's
being
the-
healthy when you see somebody doesn't mean that they don't have an emerging illness. We see
Well,
this with a lot
his
of
doctors say
Anyway,
he
it
has,
doesn't matter.
His
Right now,
doctors who are there said he
it
does.
doesn't. Right now, that does not matter because we'll find out or we won't. Waj, do you have breaking news as well? I just want to get into breaking news.
Congressional Progressive Caucus Chair Pramila Jayapal has just endorsed Vice President Harris.
All right, good. Okay, Brian, back to you. Let's talk VP stuff. I don't want to talk Biden's health stuff because that's speculation. We now know that Andy Bashir is one of three potential VP replacements. And actually, I was talking to somebody that you all know, but I'm not going to mention. And we were speculating that if this did happen, two of the picks would be Josh Shapiro and Andy Bashir. I'd be happy with either of them, but I think we need Shapiro in Pennsylvania for this election, Brian. And even though Andy Bashir doesn't win us Kentucky because no Democrats are not winning Kentucky, I think he would be amazing.
Well, I know both of them, and Andy Bashir's father, Steve Bashir, gave the Democratic introduction State of the Union address, the anti-State of the Union address back during, I think it was Bush's era. Andy Bashir is a governor who has won the state of Kentucky as a Democrat because he appeals to the same voters that Joe Biden appeals to in those toss-up states that are going to be a problem. Most polls show that Kamala Harris polls much better than Joe Biden, has much better energy in the blue states, but in the purple states and the red states, she fares worse. So Andy Bashir could actually help the ticket in ways that no one else can. They also, and I hate saying this, but he appeals to the white people out there too because he's a handsome white guy, and they like the handsome white guy.
It's
so
what they're used to,
Yeah, but Andy Bashir is the real deal, and I knew him when he was a kid. This guy is the real deal. So and I say this full disclosure, I do have a relative who's an advisor to Bashir. That's how I got some of that information. He's a former state judge there. But the bottom line is, a little. Well, I got good information, but the bottom line is, it's going to have to be whoever it is. First of all, it's good that what Waj said about congressional support for Kamala Harris. The sooner this ends, the better. Gavin Newsom will not galvanize the Democrats, nor will Whitmer. It's got to be Kamala Harris because she's already on the ticket. So that is, and I love what Waj said about maybe, Joe Biden resigning and then she goes in as an incumbent. That would be pretty cool. Besides that, as long as they endorse and get this over with quickly and move forward, the damage is going to be to Donald Trump. And folks, let's not forget this bottom line. Nothing scares Donald Trump more than not having to face Joe Biden, because it takes a long time to build up that anti-hate, divisive anger and plant the seeds for discord. And he's got a run up. He doesn't know what to expect. And he's going to have the living crap beat out of him now by Kamala Harris.
And
just in the rhetoric.
By the way, and Waj, like, what is so, again, assuming the right thing happens is that it takes so many of their arguments off the table. The age thing, the energy thing, the I don't know, whatever other specious. Well, those were not specious, but you know what I'm saying. So hearing that the Congressional Black Caucus, I mean, not that I'm surprised, but I think getting that out of the gate right away, hopefully will set up a situation in which other people, in which we have sort of the reverse of what we just had. There was this growing pressure to make something happen that maybe should not have happened. Let's hope now we get growing pressure to make sure the right thing happens this time, right?
It's a fascinating pivot in history, and also with the identity of the Democratic Party, which oftentimes, as Danielle and I have said on our show, which is on Mary Trump Media, forgive me, but I had to be a capitalist.
No, and also, guys, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thank you.
Right now, just press that subscribe button.
Yes.
And also, and we just came out yesterday with an episode, but what we oftentimes say is the Democrats are terrified of their own shadow, which is black, which is the strongest base of the
Republicans don't have a shadow.
And in all seriousness, look at the two groups that have come out for Biden, who tried to protect this democracy on this ticket. It was the CBC, black voters, and progressives like Bernie Sanders and AOC. So here's an opportunity for the pivot, Mary. And it's an uphill battle, folks. I get it. My fear is Democrats will resort to what they always do, which is fear, establishment, money. Forgive me for saying this, whiteness, backbiting. And this is a way to say, you know what? This is who we are. We're a progressive party. We're a multiracial party. We're not afraid of women. Let's embrace Kamala Harris. And like I said in the chat just a couple of minutes ago, it's going to be an 80s buddies action movie. White cop, black cop, one from uptown, one from downtown. You know, they don't get along, but they team up together to take on the bad guy. That's what you're going to need. But the top has to be a black woman. And what I've said and what we've said on this show for the past 2 years, ever since Dobbs, and we were right, Dobbs will be a top 5 issue. Midterm elections, Dobbs was a top 5 issue. Abortion rights, women's rights. The big weakness, one of the big weaknesses of the Republican Party, in my opinion, these are the 4 weaknesses. Trump, who is never top 46%, Mary. Donald, excuse me. Anti-woman, anti-abortion, anti-Social Security and Medicare, and anti-democracy, pro-insurrection. The person who can make that case, folks, the first black female presidential candidate, VP, who's not going to be the incumbent, inshallah. And if you go on offense, they're stuck, Mary. They're stuck because J.D. Vance is even worse than Donald because he wants 0 exceptions for rape and incest, and he came out against no-fault divorce. So the question then now, Mary, for me is, will Democrats finally embrace who they have? 81 million people voted for Biden, Harris. People are not stupid. They knew Biden was an old man, which meant that if Biden died in office, who would take over? VP Harris. And folks, Danielle and I, this ain't our first rodeo. We've seen how the Democratic Party has screwed over people of color, black people, Muslims. I'm telling you, listen to AOC also. If you think Kamala Harris is a shoo-in, she ain't. That's why J. Paul just said that. I hope Bernie says that. I hope AOC says that. I hope the CBC says it. I hope they all come in because they will try to screw this ticket. I'm telling you, they'll try to screw this ticket. And the best way forward in an uphill battle is I want them to go all in, embrace this identity. And the last thing I'll say is I just tweeted this right before he went to me. It'll be hilarious if President Biden, however long he stays in office, if he finishes a term, just goes ham. Goes, I got nothing to lose.
Yeah.
The establishment screwed me over. These white bros screwed me over. I'm going to go full on progressive. I'm just
90% income tax on the highest earners.
And Supreme Court just gave me massive power. So
exactly,
medical debt gone, student loan debt.
Totally,
try to stop me. Why
totally. Not? Now, Daniel, you're next, but Danielle has some breaking news. So Danielle, share that, and then Daniel's turn.
Yep. So right now, former President Clinton, former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton have just endorsed Kamala Harris. They have come out with a statement. Very quickly, I'll just read the part that actually matters. We join millions of Americans in thanking President Biden for all he has accomplished standing up for America time and again, with this North Star always being what's best for the country. We are honored to join the president in endorsing Vice President Harris and will do whatever we can to support her.
That is exactly what needs to keep happening. Daniel? Thank you, Danielle. You're muted.
I think that, in my opinion, that there's a couple of things. First, if there's an issue of President Biden's health out there, that's going to be the buzz for the next 3 weeks. Even if it is or isn't, I believe he should step down. We should have a great ceremony where Vice President Harris is made president of the United States, make it as big an event as possible. I think maybe, I think under the rules, I don't know if John Roberts would have to swear in, but I think that it would be a huge thing to do. I think that's the next thing that should be done, is that she should be put in as president. She's going to be the incumbent. I mean, like you said, Mary, the power of the incumbency is immense, and she will have all the powers of the presidency that she can get behind for the next several months. As much as as a Jewish person, I would love to have, he's going to have the first gentleman as a Jewish man. I don't think having Shapiro, I like Shapiro, but I think I like Bashir's. I think I'm in the South. I'm a moderate Democrat. I think, although we're not going to win Kentucky, I think somebody like him would be good. But I think, I think the immediate with President Clinton coming in, they should have a ceremony with all the Democratic presidents there and put her in. She can start taking serious action on these Supreme Court reforms, abortion issues. She's got full reign. And for Donald Trump to have to run against a black woman who's a sitting president, his head's going to explode. Well, to some degree, but
I mean, no. I was going to say something that I would have regretted, so I stopped myself.
Okay, well, I think that
exploded years ago.
He doesn't have to, I mean, they haven't built him a reservoir of what they're going to do with her. So I think that's the next move. I think everyone get behind her immediately, put her in the president, show that she's can do a great job. I mean, the best way to get a job is to show you can do the job. And I think that would be what I would recommend.
Absolutely. I'm all for that. So we are back full circle. Jen.
Sorry. Yeah. I'm my only, although in my fantasy world, and I still haven't decided I'm against it, I would love for him to step down from office and let her step up. My only concern is, if she nominates a VP, you've got to get that through the House and Senate, and they would try to make her look incapable. They would never let it go to a vote in the House. So I'm just worried that, and then if anything goes down, she'll be blamed for it as president. I think in some ways, free her up. She has the power of incumbency. Let her go out and campaign. Let Biden do his thing. On the other hand, I don't know. I could be convinced either way, but I really think it's better to set her free, get her out there, and let Biden just handle the end of his presidency, with dignity.
Yeah, that's a really interesting point, Danielle. I know you have to go in a couple minutes. So, we may still be here when you're done, but in the event that we're not, just go ahead and share whatever you want.
Okay, great. So first I want to say that I agree with Jen. I think do not have Biden
and all's right with the world.
and all's right with the world again. Do not have Biden step down. Waj, I love you. But I and Daniel, I disagree with the stepping down of Joe Biden right now, because I think that there is and pardon my expression, but there is a noose that is already ready and waiting for Kamala Harris. So let her have the freedom to be out there, to prosecute the case, to not have to be saddled with the war in Gaza, to not have to be saddled with inflation, to not have to be saddled with these things, and let her go out and do what she can do, which we have seen when she was senator, which is take on the white male establishment and make the case, and let her do that and be free to do so without having the burden of the White House. Let Joe Biden do what you said, which is go full throttle progressive, rail over these last, because you have nothing to lose at this moment. 3.5 months. And oh, by the way, just remember, Supreme Court gave you immunity. You really have nothing to lose in these next 3.5 months.
Yeah. And Brian, if people keep endorsing Kamala Harris that will stand in for incumbency. And I too like the idea of freeing her up to campaign, because the more we have a compare and contrast between Kamala Harris, Donald freaking Trump, and what's his name? The misogynist Christian nationalist. I don't know. The evil Care Bear guy.
Robert Kennedy?
JD,
Yeah, I remember his name.
that the evil Care Bear is
Yeah,
right.
the evil Care Bear. I wish I could give credit to whoever said that. But anyway, Brian, the more we have that, and she is unencumbered by the the serious business of running the country right now, the better. It's almost like I don't want to put I don't know. I'm being a little bit too positive here, but it's almost the best of both worlds, I guess.
Well, I think I like this idea because Joe Biden is a modern day Cincinnatus, putting it down, walking away. He's got 4 months now where he can be unfettered and out there and loving it. And I'd love it if he went out there and expanded the Supreme Court. And I'd like it if he went after, by executive order, created a lot of things that he's been unable to do. He has a role to play in this. And I think that it's very important that he's done the job. No one is saying, even at the end of the day, those who wanted him to leave, like Sherrod Brown, who said, we need to focus on these issues. And that's why Joe Biden should step aside. Hell, that was Joe Biden's whole gig, was every issue that the Democrats have talked about, he's addressed. So he'll still do the job for the next 4 months. And then we're going to have to see unfettered Kamala Harris, because look, I'm telling you, nothing scares Donald Trump more than having to debate Kamala Harris.
Oh, there won't be a debate. There will not
That's
be.
why there won't be a debate.
I'm calling
it. So I'd love to. Yeah. No, I think you're right on target there. I think we all would agree on that. But at the end of the day, I would like to see whatever happens, some unity in the Democratic Party. But Waj was right. I've seen this Democratic Party since the 80s. In 1980, I watched them tear themselves apart, and that ushered in Ronald Reagan. They've got to avoid that, and there's no guarantee that they will.
There's no guarantee. Yeah, sorry, Brian. I agree there's no guarantee that they will. But Waj, this is very different because unlike Jimmy Carter. Oh, okay. So check in later if we're still here. Hop on back. Thanks, guys.
Love you all. It's always fun. Misery loves company, and I love you all.
I don't feel miserable though, Waj. I mean, because look, this is very different from 1980. Joe Biden had a much better, inarguably successful first term. And Kamala Harris was a significant part of that administration. She has been, contrary to what a lot of people would have you believe, she's been an excellent vice president. And for those who saying she hasn't been, name me a good vice president. Tell me of some vice president who jumps out as having been an amazing. You can't, because vice presidents either don't do anything or they don't get credit for anything. So that's like a non-starter. So in that way, she has a record to run on that she has helped, that she's contributed to. And again, if we continue to get endorsements that kind of force the issue, that make this almost a fait accompli, then I think we're in really good shape here.
It's an uphill look. It's uphill.
Yeah.
And the reason why it's uphill is his history shows us that something like this never has worked. However, I agree with you. There's babies here. I'm sorry if you heard those babies. Cute babies everywhere. But this is the difference. When it came to Carter versus Reagan, we didn't know what Reagan was like. We know Trump.
Oh yeah, that's the other. God, how did I forget that issue? Good point.
81 million people voted for Biden and Harris, and the predominant reason when you ask people is because they wanted to ensure that Trump would never ever get in office. Since then, Trump is Donald is a criminal convict. He's been held liable for rape, for rape against E. Jean Carroll, defamation, fraud. He can't do business in New York. He owes more than 400 million. And he's peaked. I believe he's peaked. He's always topped out, right? So we know what we're dealing with. That's one big change. LBJ and both Jimmy Carter had these two crises. They had Iran hostage crisis, and you had Vietnam War. Now, Gaza is a crisis. However, in terms of similar crisis, not the same because U.S. soldiers aren't there, U.S. hostages aren't there, right? And it isn't motivating American voters as much. It's not the same as like a tumultuous type of crisis. So that's another thing that actually benefits Kamala Harris in a big way. A third is we had Roe v. Wade. Now we don't. And so I go back to women. I believe, I've said this for 4 years, I'll say it again, if there is a chance to make this, and I think, Shal, there is a chance, do not underestimate the righteous rage of women. And what better person, messenger, to make the case that these two men, Evil Care Bear and friggin' Baron Harkonnen on steroids, are repulsive. Jen Dune. It's the big blob guy with like eroding skin. That's Donald, who's a vulgarian to the core. I think that was an exquisite.
I think of him as the portrait in the attic, but that's
okay.
me. Although, like sorry, that's not accurate at all. Let's move on. No ad hominem attacks.
But what I'm saying is,
I know
what better person to make that case than a woman? And so I believe it's one of those
young, energetic,
who was a prosecutor.
Awesome. Yes.
And, you know, I had a friend of mine on WhatsApp, you know, we're all talking about this right now. He says, oh, no, Kamala can't do it, you know, this and that. I'm like, listen, I'm from California. I've seen her entire career. She's a prosecutor. She can do it. You put her on a debate stage, she can do it in front of a teleprompter. Tell her to make this case. It's democracy versus dictatorship. We will protect your freedoms. Donald will take it away. Do a 80s action buddy team up with a white dude and Kamala, team them up together. And this is where, Mary, I think the reason why you feel a bit relieved now, and the reason why I feel a bit relieved also is what's done is done. The Band-Aid is ripped off for better or for worse. We have 4 months left. There is a type of, the uncertainty is gone. Will he, won't he? He made the decision. He's out. Now it's all about, will the Democrats and the donors and a lot of these tech bros rally behind Kamala? I'm skeptical that they won't, but I feel like you said, this pressure, this fire hose of pressure that came out, it's all very coordinated, is inshallah going to protect her. And,
you know what, Waj? Yeah. Sorry, just really quickly.
No.
I think it's really important to look for this tell. A lot of donors like Abigail Disney, again, making the argument against inherited wealth, have paused their donations to all Democrats unless Biden steps down. So I would assume that they have already started donating to Democrats again, right, Wash? They held their breath. They turned blue. They got their way.
Call them out. Call them out this week, and you pressure them because you put us in this mess. We did what you said. All right, Biden did the right thing. So you go better. You better support Kamala Harris right now. That's what I'm saying, because there's no other chance. And I think the reason why we should feel hopeful is we still have 4 months. And you and Danielle have made me turn what I said was Biden should step down at the convention because it'll be historic. It'll make news. He'll anoint Kamala. It gives him a month and a half head start to attack. I still am on the fence about that, but you've made me, I don't know, you made me think about it. Maybe it'll insulate Kamala. And if that's the case, maybe towards the end, like literally October, to have the incumbency key, if he steps down like 2 weeks before the election, that would be awesome too.
Yeah. And actually, Jen helped articulate that for me as well. And Daniel, this is something we also need to be very mindful of. What's his name? Mike Johnson. I didn't know that was happening. Anyway, Mike Johnson has already talked about bringing lawsuits if Biden drops out of the ticket, which, by the way, like, I don't know, like, how is that a thing that's allowed? Like, if somebody like dies or something, or is is unable to run, how is that illegal? Or how is it wrong for somebody to replace them? I mean, so what? It's just going to be like, oh, well, Biden's not running, so I guess Donald has to be president. Are they kidding? You're muted.
I wouldn't put it past them to try anything, but yeah, there's no merit to that. But a couple of things that have been mentioned about Vice President Harris, I think two of the biggest issues that we have going for us against Donald Trump are his criminal record and what he's done with abortion rights. And Kamala Harris, having served as attorney general, a prosecutor, she has the ability, I think, to very aggressively and assertively make that case. She has an experience as a prosecutor. And secondly, with regard being a woman and being really speaking out on the abortion rights, that she should be talking about those things. And I think she's uniquely equipped to do so. In terms of the issue of whether she, what time she should come in or there or thereafter, I think what we've gotten President Biden endorsing it. We've got the Clintons. I would love to see former President Obama come out and endorse her as quickly as possible, and for her to go out and find a good vice presidential candidate. Because as long as we need to be talking about Donald Trump. Now that the decision has been made about President Biden, we needed to move forward, and that discussion was cluttering the airwaves. So now we need somebody. Kamala Harris, I think, is perfectly suited to prosecute that case. With regard to attempts to not allow someone to come in and take her place, I wouldn't be surprised if Johnson tries that, but there's no legitimate legal basis to do so. But I think that initially I was really, I still believe that President Biden, I think he was wrongfully pushed out of this. But now, I think seeing what's happened so quickly with regard to President Biden endorsing her, Clinton's endorsing her, I think if that can be done, if the disorganized way in which President Biden was taken out could be followed by an extremely organized and tactical way of getting Kamala Harris in position would go a long way. I think we have 4 months, but I think if we start talking about other people having an open convention, then we don't have enough time to be dealing with that. And also the fundraising issue. Can money that's been given to Biden Harris be given to a different person? And I think there's serious questions as to whether that legally can be done if it's someone other than Vice President Harris. And so what are you going to, that's going to be a whole fiasco. So yeah, I feel that, and I also think that it's been stated before that Donald Trump there is not going to be a debate if Vice President Harris is the candidate. That will not happen. If you go back and look at some of the committee meetings when Kamala Harris was on the Judiciary Committee and how she grilled some of those nominees for the Supreme Court. And I think there was maybe, was it Gorsuch or one of them? Roberts. She just filleted him within minutes. And she has that ability. She has that skill set. And I think whether she's put in now or if she's not put in, I think we do need to elevate her as a sitting vice president with the president stepping down, because I do think the Americans like stability. I mean, if we could have somebody in some form of fashion showing that, well, she becomes somewhere down the road, I think her just sliding into that, it brings some stability to the situation. And who could be a vice president thereafter, that I'm sure that can be figured out. But I do like the idea of Vice President Harris and somebody like Andy Beshears. I think that would be a strong ticket. I think the Democratic Party needs to move forward in an organized fashion and go after Donald Trump, because for the last 3 weeks, we haven't been making that case. And we have the opportunity now if we have a unified ticket going forward.
Exactly. And just a little bit of breaking news. Congressional Hispanic Caucus Chair Nanette Barragán just endorsed Vice President Harris. On the other hand, though, I saw this from Richard Blumenthal, senator from Connecticut, I believe.
Senator who lied about his
military record. Yeah.
But he basically said in a series of tweets, Joe Biden is one of the greatest, most consequential presidents. Oh, wait, hold on a second. I don't want to get ahead of myself because this was literally seconds ago. So I am going to keep my powder dry. But if anybody's out there on Twitter praising Biden for being the best president ever, blah, 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 and not endorsing Vice President Harris, you're doing it wrong. Okay. So, Jen, I think we really do have incredible opportunity here for all of the reasons people suggested. And we aren't going to be able to do that if, and look, I'm sorry if the language is not to your I don't mean you, like everybody else. If this language isn't to your liking, I apologize for that. But we really do need to get in line. Vice President Kamala Harris is infinitely qualified for the job. We voted for this ticket. You don't just vote for the president. You vote for the person who is one heartbeat away from it. Okay. Which
Yeah.
is one of the many reasons John McCain lost, because everybody was like, holy shit, Sarah Palin. No friggin' way. So, I mean, I think he would have lost either way, but she torpedoed his campaign for that very reason. We don't have that problem. And again, we are the pro-democracy ticket. The other guys are a bunch of fascists. I just want to show this to you. Hopefully it's the thing I'm looking for. Okay, so Donald responds to Biden's dropping out. Wow, I swear, newspapers and grammar, they just don't get it. It's Biden's. Anyway, in a phone call with CNN minutes after President Joe Biden announced, hey, Cap. Oh, hey, Lyndon. Joe Biden announced his exit for the 2024 race. Donald, the fascist, described Biden's going, quote, Biden is going, quote, down as the single worst president by far in the history of our country, unquote. While it's unclear who the Democrat, blah, blah, blah. Donald said he thinks Vice President Kamala Harris will be easier to defeat than Biden would have been. Oh, you poor unfortunate moron. So Jen, that's who our competition is. Come on, man, get it together.
Yeah, I want to add a new dimension. It almost feels too soon, but in the first Tuesday in November of 2016, I almost had tears in my eyes because I thought, could it actually be in America that we would actually finally have a woman president? And it wasn't entirely just that Donald won and he is a vulgarian monster fascist and I saw everything he would do, but it also felt like a woman, a middle-aged woman that I am, that yes, there is a glass ceiling and no, women are hated in this country. And all the little girls who were looking forward to this, Kamala Harris will be our first woman president. That's the thing about the intersection of race and gender. And I do think that there's this, I do think young girls in America and young white girls some of them who have white moms, are growing up in a multiracial world. I think white moms too, young white moms, live in a multiracial world. I think they would love to vote for the first woman president, and they will vote in that way with they will put womanhood, I think, this time above whiteness. I think that could really happen. I think, I did knock doors in 2016, and some of the baggage Hillary should have won, period. But some of the baggage she came with was her association with her husband. Joe Biden shouldn't be associated with his son, Hunter, but that goes away now. Donald Trump will be the only person in this race who is a convicted felon. Donald Trump and JD Care Bear Vance will be the only people here who believe in battering spouses and that, violence is okay and they're against abortion. To me, it's not just anti-Trump. Harris brings to it the possibility of women's liberation in this way that, and multiracial democracy all rolled up in one. It's exciting. And I'm just starting to have those feelings.
Yeah, I mean, for me in 2016, well, there were so many things going on, but personal stuff aside, it was just the cruel injustice of it all. And Waj, I talked earlier about allyship, and Danielle pointed out that, well, it's also about voting for your own self-interest. And the problem is we are such a racist and misogynistic country that people think that we call it voting against their self-interest, but they're voting against other interests. And that's the thing that a lot of people don't seem to understand. As you wrote in the chat, well, it's South Asia, Southeast Asia countries all have female presidents. Germany had a female chancellor. We've had female prime ministers, and on and on and on and on. The prime minister of Britain was a man of color. And and yes, people can say, oh, well, we did have a black president. Yeah, and then look what happened. Not because of President Obama, but because of the horrific racism in this country, which was compounded by the misogyny against the woman running to succeed him. So, yeah, we have a ways to go. But Waj, do you share Jen's optimism here that again, assuming, and this is a big assumption right now, assuming Democrats come together and do the right thing, is Vice President Harris's just supreme fitness for the job and the fact that she should indeed be next in line enough, do you think?
Listen, what better way to knock out a white supremacist bully than a black Indian woman who is the daughter of immigrants? I mean, can you imagine? For the rest of us, this is the realization of the American dream, and for white supremacists, that's
married to a Jewish man too. That will really also kill him.
Jewish man, biracial. Oh my God,
it's so great.
I mean, it is. It literally is. And so, listen, I don't follow the cult of personality, and people of color don't as well. You know, when it comes to all those people of color will simply vote for X, Y, and Z. That has never happened in America. You do not see black voters rally behind Kamala Harris. What they've always done strategically is who will be the best leader for the country, who will uplift the country. And as such, you saw them get behind Joe Biden. There's a reason why Herman Cain never became president. By the way, he died of COVID. Literally, Republicans killed him.
Is there really only one reason?
I mean, there's several reasons, right? So what I think what a lot of the white liberals listening right now, I'm not trying to stereotype, is historically people of color in this country, black voters, Asian voters, South Asian voters, have gone for the best option. You know, she is Indian. I'm Pakistani. We're South Asian. We sat there and said, okay, yay, let's rally behind our cultural ethnicity and have cultural anxiety. No, we didn't. We're like, who will beat Trump? Biden. So here's an example of a person who we're not rallying behind just because of her DEI status, because she's a woman or a person of color, is because she's the most qualified. She's earned it. She was on the ticket. She's been doing this fantastic job with Joe Biden for the past 3.5 years. They have a whole bunch of people rallying behind her. There was a primary. She was a DA, attorney general, senator. She's been vice president for 3.5 years. If Joe Biden and others say she's the right person for the job, so be it. And secondly, we cannot ignore the historical power of seeing a black Indian woman, inshallah, become president if Biden resigns before, or inshallah if she wins. Because in this country of the United States of America, we've only had one person of color being president, 0 women. And, you know, I'm from South Asia. I'm from America. My family's from South Asia. Despite all the misogyny, all those countries have had female leaders. The United States has not. So when it came to Biden and Harris and when they won, I remember you saw one of my daughters. I put all my kids in front of the TV, and I said, "Look, that's Kamala Harris. You know, her family is originally from India, and we're from Pakistan. But before everything was all one subcontinent, and she's like you, Nunu. My daughter's name is Nunu and Khadija. I'm like, look at that, and look." If she can be vice president, inshallah, one day you can too. And my daughters were sitting there like, wow. So there's something about representation, Mary, and something really powerful about it.
Yeah.
And I think there is something that they should lean into. I know I'm repeating myself, but Democrats historically have been terrified of their own shadow, which is black. Lean into the fact that you are a multiracial party. The people who save you are women and women of color. You have a black Indian woman who is your vice president incumbent, perhaps your leader moving forward. Rally behind her. Get allies. Shut down all misogyny. Shut down all racism. And also realize, in my opinion, that this is historic, right? Like what Jen was saying. She sees a woman. She's like, I've been waiting forever. I remember, last thing I'll say is, and I'm saying this as a man also, is I was covering the 2016 election. I was in New York. I was covering for Huffington Post. I was at Javits Center on election night. And I saw what happened. And Clinton was supposed to win. And I went back to the Huffington Post office, and there were women in their 20s crying. And we had to console women who were crying. And
I think I cried for 6 months, actually.
Yeah, and I was the elder at that time in my 30s, but like, you know, I'd seen some things, I tried my best. But to see that pain, you know, and like, oh my God, this country would rather vote for a racist vulgarian than an accomplished woman. So here we have a chance, folks.
Rapist.
8 years later, have we learned? This is a test, not just for the Democratic Party.
Right.
This is a test for America. And inshallah, I hope if we succeed in this test, I think the imagery, Mary, the metaphor, the internationally will be so powerful for an entire generation of women.
Oh my God! I mean, and hopefully men too. Speaking of which, Daniel, you're up. I just want to read this quickly because it is sadly what I thought it would be. So Senator Richard Blumenthal tweeted, over the last 4 years, he's overseen, meaning Biden, the passage of immensely impactful is not a word. Stop using it. Laws that will benefit generations of Americans. Joe, oh wait, I missed the first one. Hang on, sorry. My apologies. Joe Biden's one of the greatest, most consequential presidents in American history. He was the compassionate, courageous leader our country desperately needed during a time of crisis. Over the last 4 years, he's overseen the passage of immensely important laws that will benefit generations. He's smart, strategic fighter who always looks out for the little guy. I'm incredibly grateful for his lifetime of service and his unwavering, steadfast commitment to the future of our nation. End thread. Hit the very first comment is the very first comment after this thread was so why did the Democrats push him out? And the second one was so how about endorsing Vice President Harris like Senator Chris Murphy did? Both very good questions, Daniel. So I think that the only way, or the most efficient way, to make sure this is as smooth as possible is for elected Democrats to do what we've seen the Congressional Black Caucus, the Congressional Latino Caucus, individual senators. I'm assuming while we've been talking, like many people, we'll see Bernie Sanders, of course, and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, and on and on and on, the Clintons. The more that happens, the less we need to pay not that anybody should pay attention to donors, but elected politicians do. So the more we get electeds on our side, I think the smoother this goes, hopefully. You're muted. Still muted.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think the first people that President Biden and Vice President Harris should be calling are all the people that the first who came out to say Biden should step aside. Yeah. Let's go down the list, and then we eventually get to Senator Sherrod Brown. I mean, they should be. Yeah, it's like they should all be asked. They should all be asked first. Hey, this is what you did, and this is what needs to be done because of what you did, and get them on board and get all these folks, these congressmen that came out, and I don't know, but I don't know if we care what George Clooney says anymore. But I mean, the elected officials who orchestrated this should be the first ones, I believe, to come out and support. And I think if we get that rolling, I think, I agree with Waj. This is a test of our we had a Black president who did a great job for 2 terms, who was followed by a racist, fascist. Are we going to go, which direction are we going to go at this point? We now have a clear choice. We don't, it's a Black woman versus a racist man. The vice president, we do. There also has to be the issue, but I don't know when it's going to come up. Although J.D. Vance's his wife is Indian American, so they're going to have a little bit of difficulty attacking. When they still will do it.
No, she's American, but she's her parents are immigrants, I believe, from India.
Right. So so that I don't know if they're going to be wary of that or not, but I think that that they should be focusing on all these. Never Joe Biden Democrats, as would call, and get them on board because
our Indian is a real American. Your Indian is a fake American.
I know Nick Fuentes would differ. He thinks they're all fake Americans.
But I think they need to get on that immediately. I think the more we get people that were particularly behind getting President Biden to do this, they should have a press conference. They should be I hate to use the word coordination as a Democrat, but that's what we need to be doing. We need to be coordinating.
But it's not. We voted for her. Not. Don't ever say that.
That's right. Okay, exactly. Yeah. Let's talk about
Sorry, I don't mean to boss you around, but it's not a coronation.
I'm used to it. Don't worry. You boss
me. No, but that's what people are saying.
Jen, your mic is a little. Okay. No. You can yell at Daniel. Okay. No problem with that. Hold on. Your mic is loud, Jen. That's the problem. Sorry. Go ahead, Daniel.
Yes, I think, and we also talk about President Biden had her on the ticket, and they won overwhelmingly. So although we are a country that has issues with people of color, we are not where we should be, clearly. But people voted for her vice president, knowing that President Biden was a particular age. He may not be, he probably was not going to run again. So I think we need to give the American people a little credit. I live in the South, so it's sometimes hard for me to do that in North Florida with, some of the bigotry I see regularly. But she's a commodity. She's a person that's been vetted. She's the second most powerful person in the world at this point in time. She was elected that position.
Yeah,
I personally think, whether it needs to be done or not, I think personally that if she moves into that office earlier, I think personally that would be a good idea. I don't think it's necessary, but I mean, if anyone other than Vice President Harris is the nominee, I don't know what I'm at a loss as to.
It's over if that's the
case.
It's
over. I mean, it's
okay.
going to be.
Well, I don't like to say that, but
that's the end of it.
It's
okay.
True,
well, I'm glad you all. That's what I think. But I think you should go with somebody with like Bashir's, from the Southern moderate Democrat, who's very, he's also was attorney general in Kentucky, and he won in Kentucky. As Kentucky is very red. And he ran in part, I think, his father was a well-known elected official, very well respected. Bashir's, he took very good stands on COVID, things like that. So I think they should announce their tickets sooner than later. I mean, we're already behind. What's there to wait for? So I believe this is a test, and I have more confidence in American people that they're gonna do the right thing and not allow this guy back in the White House and put the current vice president become the president, which is a natural thing to be done. How many times have Republicans done it? John, we had Republicans and Democrats. Richard Nixon, we don't obviously have it. He was a vice president. If you go back in history, how many, and I don't know the number, how many vice presidents in this country have become presidents? And that's what we've been talking about, that's a natural type of thing to be done. And in this situation, just because she's not a white male doesn't make it any more logical to be done.
Yeah. Hold on one second. Hold on. Sorry. Okay. So Brian, one of the things that I've been saying pretty much since President Biden was elected in 2020 was that we knew how old he was then. Unless you don't understand how human aging works, or you don't know how to add 4 to a number, what are you even talking about? But I just want to play this for you. So Mercedes, if you could put that Bakari Sellers video in, because it's so fabulous. Oh wait, no, hold on. Oh, okay. So whenever you can, let me know when you're. No, the one, the last one that was added. Yes, that one. Trust me, it's worth the wait.
I just added it to the chat.
Yeah,
Mercedes.
it's the one that was just that. Oh, okay. So let's. So Brian, we're going to play that in a second.
Sure.
As soon as it downloads, because I think it's worth watching. But that has always been of immense frustration to me, that not just Biden's 4 years older. How the hell did that happen? But that Donald is only 3 years younger. And the only reason he doesn't seem as old is because he's louder and he puts massive amounts of makeup on his face. So it's just kind of incredible to me that anybody would believe for a second that Donald would prefer to run against anybody but Biden.
All I can tell you is you listen to Donald Trump, older or younger, you listen to 5 seconds of Donald Trump and suddenly you become George Carlin and you go, that guy's freaking nuts. That's all
okay,
it is.
But Brian, why hasn't that happened?
Because Donald Trump does something that I ran into a Trumper, right, who said, and this was, I tell this story often, Jim Acosta and I were at a rally in Pennsylvania, a Trump rally. And these Trumpers with the Trump t-shirts came on and the MAGA hats, and they're screaming and ran. And this woman goes, there's Jim Acosta. Fake media, fake media. I hate me some Jim Acosta. And I said, well, actually, Jim's a very nice fella. You ought to talk to him. So she walks over. Jim gets his picture taken with her, smiles. She walks away and she goes, I loves me some Jim Acosta. He's a nice fella, and walked off. They simply want validation. They want to be heard. And Donald Trump makes them feel like they're heard and that they're validated for whatever it is that they think. Someone from up high has validated me. And that is why Donald Trump appeals to people. And that's why it's hard to get through to people who are not, of the Donald Trump ilk. Those
plus he gets away with murder. Like,
that's why he gets away with murder, because
we're told that he's
power.
He raised like a maniac, and then we're told that he's uniting the country, which is just the most insane thing I've ever heard. Okay, let's check out this video. It's awesome.
Because we have work to do. And so I'm going to be on the phone tonight calling delegates, getting them, whipping them up, trying to get them on board for Kamala Harris. I don't think that's going to be a difficult task. And anything else the vice president needs to do, I'll be there. Because right now, Kamala Harris has her work cut out for her. She's running against the oldest nominee for president of the United States in American history. And so when you have this type of change election, when you have this type of generational divide that you have, it's a question of whether or not you want to go backwards with Donald Trump or forward with Kamala Harris. I mean, the man is nearly 80 years old. And so the question is, can he serve another 4 years? I'm not sure he can.
This, my friends, is how it's done. And thank you, Daniel, for pointing out that Donald donated $5 to Kamala Harris's campaign for Attorney General, which, like, why? I mean, why anything? Because he's so cheap, but also, like, why California Attorney General $5?
I'm sorry, it was 5,000. 5,000.
Oh, that's a comma and missing a zero. Even so,
no, yes, he gave $5,000 in 2011 to reelect Harris. That was just posted by. So I don't know why he's going to explain that, but
he's not going to have to. Nobody, because we're the only people who would ask them that question. Nobody else will. And as Jen and Brian both pointed out, Kamala
you need
Harris
a new hat now.
Could end up certifying. I do. Kamala Harris could end up certifying her own election. Yes. Stephen gave me a hat that says Trump for Biden. However, Joyce Vance and I still could be the Trump Vance ticket. So just for fun. Anyway, so Donald's old. He's insane. That is not a technical term. And we have to be energized. And the other thing, we don't know how this thing plays out, right? What we can do now, though, is make up for lost time by making sure that we donate, like, now, like, find, and
Harris,
mean,
right.
Normally I would say, well, going forward, I think, Jen, this might have been your suggestion. I think we should, like, adopt a candidate for every nerd Avenger, like a vulnerable senator in a swing state, like Sherrod Brown, John Tester, even though I'm angry at them right now. But I can get over it, and I still want them to win. Today, let's make it Vice President Harris we're donating to. You could go to Democracy Defense Fund, my PAC, because we make sure that as much money as humanly possible actually gets to the candidates. You can go to Act Blue. I'm sure there are all sorts of ways to donate to her. This is an amazing fundraising opportunity to make up for lost time. Some news: Obama didn't endorse Biden, or he just hasn't said anything.
He didn't endorse Harris in his.
I meant Harris. Sorry.
He didn't endorse Harris in his statement, which I just posted in the chat.
Okay. Thank you.
He did not endorse, but he could have, but he didn't. So I'm just saying something.
Yeah, well,
people have picked up on that.
Hardly surprises me. It's sad, but it's a huge missed opportunity. Jen, you have some other news?
Yeah, I'm seeing a tweet from Manu Raju 2 minutes ago. Obviously, he is with CNN, quoting Harris. This is an official statement. I am honored to have the president's endorsement, and my intention is to earn and win this nomination. Over the past year, I have traveled across the country talking with Americans about the clear choice in this momentous election. And that is why I will continue to do in the days and weeks ahead. I will do everything in my power to unite the Democratic Party and unite our nation to defeat Donald Trump and his extreme Project 2025 agenda.
Good. Good. I mean, personally,
Meanwhile-
you guys tell me. Oh, yeah. So wait. So, Brian, who asked you that question? First of all, what was the question, and who asked it to you? My God.
I was on. I left to do a radio bit that I had already previously scheduled. Forgive me. I would rather be here. But the radio host asked me if that means that Donald Trump, now that Biden has backed out, does it mean Donald Trump will win in a landslide? And I said, no, it doesn't seem like that at all. But another update for you. You're going to love this one. Candidate Marianne Williamson calls for an open convention. So
Who?
the S storm has begun. I think people look
Wait
at
a minute.
this.
Wait a minute. Marianne Williamson, give me a break. I don't.
I know.
That is absurd. That is
Well,
not the beginning
this
of a
whole-
shitstorm. That's like not even the beginning of anything. Like
That's a Hershey squirt.
I
All I can tell you is that it's not conducive to what should transpire. So if she's silenced, and hopefully she is, then things go on as they should. I would really like to see, at the end of the day, the Democrats get their stuff together quickly rather than taking a long time in the Democratic National Convention. On day one, there are going to be back deals made. There's going to be people that are going to want something out of this. There's going to be, at the end of the day, though, that should all be perfunctory. What should happen is a roll call vote for Kamala Harris, and then they have they get in and out of it. They can nominate Gavin. They can nominate whoever they want. I'd say at the end of the day, it's perfunctory. No votes for them, and they move forward. That's what you would hope for out of the convention. No big floor fight. If it ends up in a big floor fight, then anything can happen.
And what I would say quickly, because we're going to wrap up, is that somebody with the acute political instincts of a Gavin Newsom would never in a million years accept that nomination, because it would destroy. He wants to be president someday. It would destroy his political future. So that ain't happening. And, we just need to stay strong and be very clear in our convictions here. I just want also, we're going to play a video of Kamala Harris in a second, but before we get there, there's another video for going around on TikTok, and it's basically her just like laughing and talking about how much she loves certain things. The woman loves Venn diagrams, for God's sakes. Like, that's enough reason to vote for her. And just like this, she's just this exuberant person who has an amazing laugh. Donald mocks her. He calls her Laughing Kamala. And the reason he does that is because, one, there's like nothing else that he can grab onto because she's so infinitely superior to him in every way, but also because he does not understand joy. I want somebody in office who has compassion and empathy and feels joy. That is a good human thing to do, people. And you should be very suspect of people like Donald Trump who only feel some glimmer of, I don't even want to call it happiness, but whatever that is, at the expense of other people's suffering. Okay? So let's play this video and then we'll come back on the other side.
Because we have work to do. And so I'm going to be on the
good public speaker. Like,
Okay, I
so
can tell you.
good.
I can tell you.
Okay.
So when you're standing up to speak, remember that it's not about you.
Okay.
Okay, think of it like, have you learned about the Titanic?
Yeah. But I've never actually watched it. I really want to watch it.
No. Let me tell you where this is going. So if you were on the Titanic, right, and you're on the Titanic, and you know the ship is about to sink. Yeah. And you're the only one who knows. Are you going to worry about how you look and how you sound?
No.
No, because the thing that's most important is that everyone knows what you know, because they need to know what you know. You see what I'm saying? So when you give your speech, you know something that you have to share with people that they need to know.
I mean, come on, man. Look at those faces. Waj, you said it earlier. This is about seeing yourself in something that you've never had the opportunity to do, especially in this country if you're a girl or young woman of color. Come on, man. That's what we need. That is absolutely what we need. We should be pulling together for this. We should be standing up for this. And between now and November 5th, we need to do everything in our power to make that happen. So I want everybody to go around with their concluding remarks. Waj, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I know we're ending, but can you imagine Donald ever being that empathetic? He thrives off of a misanthropy. He's a misanthropic vulgarian. And so what I will say is, I don't think it's in his interest to debate her. I hope he does. And he hates being mocked. He said that yesterday. And he hates being mocked by women and people of color whom he thinks are his inferior. And I would love it for karma, for a comeuppance, for democracy, for us, as we've always said, Mary, on this show, figuratively, because we're not psychopaths, to punch a bully in the face, and to have a Black Indian woman punch the bully in the face from here on out to save our democracy. What an amazing turnaround. What a great plot twist to the American story, that we voted for the first Black man who's the son of a Muslim and a white woman. Then we got a vulgarian white supremacist. Then we had Joe Biden, who was a legacy and a transitional president who sacrificed himself and his career. It's remarkable if you really think about it, folks. I want us to really think about the news of today. A man stepped down after such a really successful presidency for the greater good of the country. It's remarkable. And he's handing it down to a Black Indian woman. And if she can win, what does that say about our country?
It will undo a lot of the damage that has been done, for sure. Brian? Daniel? Brian?
Unmute there. I will just say that Donald Trump is a loser. He will find a way to screw it up, even though it appears that something is happening that will benefit him. I think that Waj hit something on the head. This is a change. Not only it's a historic change in many ways. It's a historic change for the Democratic Party that's struggling with itself to find its voice. But and honestly, this is a party that's showing its health through its vigor through its fight. What you see with the unity of the Republican Party is its demise. It's the unity of the minority. It's the unity of authoritarianism, the unity of the Christian nationalists, and no one else involved. So don't mistake what you're seeing here, folks. At the end of the day, it appears that there's unity among the Republicans, and there isn't. It appears that there is strife and struggle among the Democrats, and while that may be for the moment, you have to also understand that the big tent allows for a lot of different opinions, and at the end, as long as they come together, I hope for great things. I always have hope, and I have hope. I look at Waj's daughter, I look at my grandson, and I have hope for this country. So today, for me, is hope.
Yeah, that's beautifully said. And I just want to remind everybody that one of the reasons the Republicans are quote unquote united is because think about this. Donald is their best chance, right? Which is shocking. There's nobody else who has his reach or quote unquote charisma, and they know it. They know that this is their last stand. And that means they're going to fight hard and viciously, and we need to be prepared. Daniel?
They already have. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, today is a historic day. I mean, we're still processing, but to have a successful sitting president decide to step down and then immediately after endorse his vice president, who's a woman of color, it's just historic. And I think this is, like Waj just said, this is a test. Is America going to go down the road of electing a white racist who's not qualified, who's a convicted felon, or a qualified younger woman of color who's sitting vice president? I mean, that's the test. That's the question. And I think we're going to be able to pull this off. I think, I obviously was hoping President Biden would continue, but it's his decision, and he made a decision, and I'm very glad that he made a decision mostly of endorsing Vice President Harris. And if everyone kind of gets in line with her, I think it's really going to be, we got a good shot.
Absolutely. Jen?
Yeah, and I want to point something else out. As a Gen Xer, Harris is just on the cusp of Gen X. She was born in October of 1964, and I want to claim her. She is us. She's one of us. And this, Obama was still a baby boomer, technically. It is our time. I think everyone here is Gen X, I think. And it is our time. We need to have our people in power.
Yeah,
I'm an old
absolutely.
fart.
Well,
fine.
No, you're really not.
Honorary. You can be an honorary Gen Xer.
Yeah, totally. Listen, you're a lead singer in a band, for God's sakes. This has been extraordinary. I would be remiss if I also didn't say to President Biden how grateful I am for you and everything you've done for this country, stepping in when you did, saving us from a global pandemic, potential economic catastrophe, for snatching democracy from the jaws of autocracy, for putting us back together against incredible odds with so much against you, for your dignity, and for being so prescient and I'll just leave it at prescient. I'll say prescient and wise for picking Kamala Harris to be your running mate, and to having the courage of your convictions by following through and endorsing her. Again, we cannot underestimate how huge this is. It has been an absolute honor to share this historic day with all of you watching, and we had like 8,000 comments. Thank you all for being here. You're amazing. You're the reason we show up. So I mean, thank you for that. And this has been it remains one of the coolest things in my life, that when things like this happens, when there's this kind of monumental seismic breaking news, I get to come here and hang out with all of you watching and hang out with my nerd Avengers. It's such a gift. Suffice it to say, this is not the last word on this subject. So we will be keeping everybody up to date. We'll keep our eyes out for any kind of news you need to hear. We'll right now we'll just stick with our regularly scheduled programming for the week. That could change at any moment. But we've got Morning Jen every morning, 8 p.m. Sorry, every morning at 8 p.m. That would be difficult. Unless you're in like Kuala Lumpur or something. Every morning at 8 a.m. Eastern time, Monday through Friday, we have Morning Jen. Tuesdays and Thursdays at noon Eastern, we have the Nerd Avengers at their regularly scheduled time. I'm going to leave it there. We've been on for a long time. We'll keep telling you what all the shows are, but they're all amazing, and your feedback about them has been great. So thank you so much for continuing to support all of our shows. Please hit the subscribe button, because it doesn't cost anything. It just means you're going to get alerted when we have new content. And thank you again. We are living in the most extraordinary times, and it is just the wildest trip imaginable to be able to be here, watching it unfold and analyzing it as it unfolds. So thank you again, Danielle, Brian, Waj, Daniel, Jen, Mercedes, for running the show today and helping us out under really not ideal circumstances. You were amazing. And we'll see you all very, very soon. In the meantime, please stay safe and be kind. Bye.